If I were to sit down and ask you what the best comic book movie ever made was, what would you say?
I could shit myself at a moment's notice.
The average Marvel fan will probably go through the entire MCU encyclopedia just to tell me the movie about the large purple man stealing magic rocks is the best. Whilst the Chad Marvel fan will simply point towards Iron Man 3, no questions asked. You have the basic DC fan who will proclaim that the Batman is the GOAT before also telling me they literally are Batman. Meanwhile, the cultured DC fan laughs at them while sitting in their penthouse, rewatching Suicide Squad. No, not that one. Or you have the boomer DC fan who will probably tell you Batman 89 is still better than anything else coming out today. They also think they're literally Batman 2. The film bros would definitely pick The Dark Knight or maybe even The Joker, and then they'll try to teach you what real cinema is by forcing you to watch The Wolf of Wall Street. Then you have the complete and utter degenerates, who will climb out from their filthy gamer dungeons just to tell you that Daredevil 2006, Batman vs Superman,
You fucking nerd.
and Venom are actually cinematic masterpieces. These people cannot be reasoned with, euthanasia is the only option.
Look at this! Look how good this looks, guys!
And finally you have the people who will pick Spider-Man 3. These people are correct. Okay, on a real, there are a lot of comic book movies that will completely rot your brain, but there are just as many that will serve you a 5-star meal. Logan, The Batman, The First Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, these are all movies that deserve their place in a cinematic hall of fame. But for me, when I think of a god-tier comic book movie, it has to be Spider-Man 2. I mean, if you've watched any of my videos, then it's very apparent how much I adore the Raimi movies, and that especially applies to Spider-Man 2. I'd marry it if I could. The movie has everything. Peter is a struggling pizza delivery man who is constantly having to choose between his life as Peter and his life as Spider-Man. Dr. Octopus is a sympathetic yet horrifying villain whose motivation is more than just world domination. Like all my man wants is a Nobel Prize. Mary Jane screams a lot, and it's filled with some of the most iconic moments ever seen in a comic book movie. Like the whole train sequence alone should be studied to figure out why it's so good. The story is utterly fantastic, the writing is insanely good, the music makes you feel like I'm ascending to another plane of reality, the cinematography looks like Da Vinci was behind the camera, and it's all thanks to the creative genius of Sam Raimi. What a man. For me, Spider-Man 2 is at the absolute peak of superhero movies, and I genuinely think it's the best Spider-Man movie ever made. Well, that was at least until 2018, when Spider-Man 2 was dethroned and another movie picked up that crown. That movie being... okay, yeah, of course it's Spider-Verse. Now looking back, 2018 was a pretty decent year for Spider-Man, all things considered. Sure, Venom was a complete mess and he fucking died in Infinity War, but at least the game was good.
9 out of 10.
And then the cherry on top of the Spider-Man themed cake, Into the Spider-Verse released in theatres that December. Wow, what a lovely Christmas gift from Fab or Sony. Unfortunately, despite the trailer showing off this gorgeously animated movie, I feel like a lot of people wrote Spider-Verse off because it was animated. Oh, what's that? A cartoon? Nah, that's for dumb babies. I need to have real people in my movies. That's much better. I mean, the movie only made 300 million, and sure that can buy a couple months worth of rent, but in comparison to every other Spider-Man movie, Spider-Verse is by far the lowest grossing, which is kind of ironic considering it's by far the best. I honestly don't understand how anyone can look at this movie and go, nah, that's not for me. Like, animated movies in general have been consistently great for a long time now, with movies like Soul, Toy Story, Ratatouille, and of course, Minions: The Rise of Gru being absolute bangers due to the huge amount of effort and passion that's been put into them. Sure, there are some very bad examples of animated movies, but Spider-Verse is clearly not that because it looks like a genuine work of art. Plus it's got Nick Cage. Into the Spider-Verse is effectively a love letter to the character of Spider-Man, which is incredibly apparent from the moment you press play. Boys, he's doing the fucking dance. Every single frame of this film just spews creativity, from the stunning visuals that look like they're ripped straight out of a comic book, to a story which is a rollercoaster of emotions to say the least. Now at its core, Into the Spider-Verse is basically another Spider-Man origin story, and yeah, we've had a few of them, but this time we focus on Miles Morales taking up the mantle of Spider-Man after Peter Parker dies. Why does this keep fucking happening? Anyway, through some multiverse nonsense, Miles ends up finding an older, rounder, more depressed version of Peter, who reluctantly teaches him how to be Spider-Man, with varying results. The whole movie looks at how Miles deals with the expectations of being Spider-Man, and how it's a massive weight on his shoulders having to fill those shoes. Like, we see Miles really struggle to control his new spider abilities throughout the movie, because clearly it isn't as easy as riding a bike. But seeing all of that is what makes this scene so utterly rewarding to watch, as Miles finally takes that leap of faith.
The way he leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated
Sure, some stuff is pretty ridiculous, like how Aunt May has a shed that leads to a downstairs Batcave, but I can easily look past any of that for aspects like the heartfelt relationship between Miles and his dad, which made me cry. Wish I knew where my dad went. Everything just works here. The characters feel authentic, the movie doesn't feel bloated despite the insane amount of characters, Kingpin is particularly menacing.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and I'm here to kick your fucking ass!
The comedy is incredibly well done, the emotional moments hit hard, and even the music is fucking great. I mean, admittedly, I'm not exactly the biggest Post Malone fan, but I can't lie, Sunflower gets me going. I will also say the score they use for Prowler whenever he's on screen is fucking horrifying and never ceases to jump scare me every time. Seriously though, to me, Into the Spider-Verse is just perfect, and it isn't even about Peter Parker. But I guess that's kind of the point. The movie understands that it really doesn't matter who's underneath that mask, as long as they uphold the core principles of what it means to be Spider-Man. As long as they're a good person willing to protect the people around them, that's all that matters. And in that sense, we're all kind of Spider-Man in our own little way. Well, not literally, sir, please get down. To be honest, I don't really have much more to add. The movie's amazing, hopefully the sequel will be just as good. Please go buy 17 copies of it on Blu-ray, and don't eat the Spider-Verse burger. Oh, and one more thing, quick question for Sony. How did you go from making the best Spider-Man movie ever to fucking this?
It's Morbin time.